Hey everybody, welcome to another week of House Groups. We've had a little bit of time off, and so we're really excited that you're here with us tonight. We're actually coming to the end of the year, which sounds a little bit crazy, but we're going to be ending a jam-packed year. For those of you that have been here, we've been talking about the fact that the Bible is a big story that we get to take part in and that we are a part of even today. And one of the things that we need to look at as we're coming to the end of the year is, we've been talking about the fact that we're a part of this story, but how do we actually fit in? Reading the Bible, it kind of seems like, a lot of the things we read are from a long time ago, and so how can we be a part of that story today? And the simple answer to that is that the church, and being a part of the church today, is how we are taking part in God's story. And the Bible talks a lot about what it looks like for us to be the church, and so for the next 2 weeks, we're actually going to be talking about that. What it looks like for us as individuals to be part of the church, and then what it looks like for our communities and our small groups and even our churches to be part of God's larger church. So one of the questions that I tend to ask myself, being a follower of Jesus, being a Christian, what's the goal of following Jesus? What am I supposed to do? And oftentimes I jump to this idea of, maybe I should avoid the sins that I think might be worse than other sins. Maybe I try to go to church really often, or I try and listen to the right music, or I'm trying to, not swear as much, or, not talk about people behind their backs. And I'm not saying it's bad to do any of this. These are all actually really good things that we should be striving to do. But at the end of the day, that's not the ultimate goal of being a follower of Jesus. God has so much more in store for us. It's not about following the right list of rules. God has a much bigger plan in place for all of us. Jesus wanted us to be really clear on the answer to the question, what is the ultimate goal of following him? And I know that he really wanted us to be clear on this because it's one of the last things he tells all of his disciples when he's here on earth. At the very end of the book of Matthew, Jesus is meeting with his disciples and he tells them, all right, here's the deal. Here's what it means for you to follow me. So Jesus tells his 11 closest followers at that point in time, his disciples, to go and make disciples of all nations. And that word disciples is one that we probably don't use very often today, but really what it means is to go out and to find more people that they can introduce Jesus to and that they can show them who Jesus is. And Jesus tells this to his 11 closest disciples, his 11 followers at this point, but really it applies to all of us. And so we can say that the goal of every follower of Jesus is to be a part of God's mission in the world. So God's mission in the world starts when we respond to the invitation to his love and his forgiveness. And as followers of God and as followers of Jesus, we are called to share that with other people. We're called to show other people who God is and show them how much he loves them and that he forgives them, that he cares for them. And I think it's worth pausing for a second here because I think it's good for us to just realize that I'm not saying, and we're not saying, that you should go out and introduce your friends to who Jesus is so that more people will come to youth group and that we'll feel better about ourselves, be able to say, oh, we had more people in attendance. Jesus' impact on my life has been unbelievable. His love for me and his forgiveness for me are things that have totally changed my life. And God has brought me to places so much better and so much greater than I could have ever imagined. And so I want as many people to experience that as possible. I want the people that I know and care about to experience that in a real way because Jesus can change lives here today. And so, of course, I want you to go tell your friends about Jesus. And of course, if you have friends that need a community, need a church community, of course I want you to invite them. I want our youth group to be a place where everyone is welcomed. But it's not so that we can say we have more people, but it's because of the fact that every life that Jesus changes is super important. So what's next? How do we actually do this? Looking at the idea of the Great Commission and going and making disciples, how do we actually do that? And I think it starts with just being willing to say yes to whatever God's calling you to. I think one of God's favorite words is go, because he wants us to get up and be able to take part in his story and in his mission. And the word go is this exciting, energizing word, but it can also be intimidating because a lot of times when we go, it means we're going into something that we might not totally know. And it means we're maybe going into something that might be a little outside of our comfort zone or might be outside of the things that we're used to. but we have the promise that God is going to go with us wherever we go. And so I think one of God's favorite things to do is to help us see what it is that we're meant to be doing and then telling us to go and do that. And one of the things we are all meant to do is to love others and show others how much God loves them. We can't live out God's best plans for our lives if we stay comfortable and inactive or stuck. I think about the fact that any of you that have your driver's license and you've driven in this beautiful state, you may have had the experience of getting stuck, getting your car stuck in the snow or in the ice. I've had that happen to me before, and I always hate calling someone or asking someone to help me. I remember one time my car got stuck. I was in high school and I was not that far away from my parents' house, and I slid and my car got stuck in the snowbank, and a couple people pulled over and asked, "Hey, do you need help?" And I was like, "No, it's fine. I got somebody else coming." But I hadn't even called anybody else to come help me yet because I was just too proud. I didn't want to ask anybody else for help. And because of that, I stayed stuck. My car stayed stuck in the snowbank. Sometimes I feel a little bit stuck, and I feel like there's something getting in the way of me following God or doing what I feel like God has called me to do. And I don't know what that might be for you, but I think that's a good question for all of us to ask. And I just wanted to share a couple things that for me can get in the way of me fully taking part in what God's doing in my life. So the first thing that can get in the way of me following God is the fact that I like being comfortable. I mean, there's something about just things that I am familiar with, things that I know. I like the comfort in that, but a lot of times God calls me and God calls us into situations that are new or maybe uncomfortable or intimidating or can be a little bit scary, but I need to be able to trust that God is going to be with me in that, even if it is an uncomfortable situation. The second thing that can get in the way of me taking part in what God's doing is the fact that I'm too busy. And I'm not saying that it's bad to be busy. I mean, we're all busy, but I tend to wear my busyness like a badge of honor. My busyness becomes a problem when I don't want to jump into something that I know is really good, and I think God is even calling me to that, but I just think I can't add anything else. And so for me, busyness gets in the way. And actually, one of my favorite speakers and authors, Bob Goff, has a practice of every Thursday he quits something.
You know one thing I do? Every single Thursday, I quit something. What if you just offload one thing, knowing that in your leadership, if you make some margin, Jesus will chuck terrific things in there.
A third thing for me that can get in my way is just being afraid. Sometimes I'm scared to tell somebody about the fact that, hey, I work at a church, or even just the fact that I have a relationship with Jesus and that's something that's totally changed my life. And I have no problem doing this with other stuff. I mean, I'm a self-professed total Apple fanboy, and so I have no problem telling someone how the new Apple computer or the new, iPhone can totally change their life. But then when it comes to talking about somebody that I know about Jesus, I start to shy away, and I think, I don't know, I don't want to bug them, I don't want to annoy them. And I also think I've seen this done in a way that isn't super helpful, and so I shy away from it because of that. But I think I just keep thinking about the fact that Jesus has changed my life, and his love in my life has been something that I am so grateful for, and why wouldn't I want to share that with other people? And so for me, getting over the fear of doing that is one of the things that can get in my way. So if the goal of every follower of Jesus is to be part of God's mission in the world, what does that mean for you? And what are some of the things that might be getting in your way of doing that? So tonight, as you go off into small groups, you're going to be talking a little bit more about these questions. And I hope that as you go, you get to see God and hear God in a new and powerful way tonight. So with that, enjoy small groups.